The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for being with us today, this evening, in the States, in the North. It's still good morning to those of us in Australia, and good afternoon those across the ditch. Apologies for being late today. We're about 2 minutes late. So can you hear me all right, folks? If you just someone type into the question box that you can hear me. See if you can hear me everywhere. Yes, 1, 2, 3. No, yes, good. At last, Andrew, thank you. Very good. So you can hear me all right. That's good news. Okay, so there's only one of you who's typed in today. Normally we get half a dozen. Let's see who's here today. So thanks very much for that. And here we are. Okay. Adrian's with us. Yes, Alan. The other Albert. These are all tutorial guys. Great to have you with us. Carol, a special greeting to you. We don't have, thanks Howard, we don't have a lot of ladies at the Daniel Code. I don't know why. It's the easiest way in the world of making money, so I thought it would have attracted more ladies, but it doesn't. That's what happens. Webby, the black line man, good to have you with it. He's been a member for a very, very long time. And tutorial guy, of course, Francisco as well. Harold, my friend from Reading. Harold, I hope things are going very well for you over there. I was thinking about you the other day, and I'll have an interesting project that I want to talk to you about. But it might take a while to come to fruition. But I think it'll fascinate you. You're the king of our resident gold bugs. It'd be interesting. Andrew says the ladies are out spending the money. Don't tell Mrs. Needham that; she gets very cross. John down in Coffs Harbour. John, I hope you've got yourself tidied up. He's been in England for 3 or 4 weeks, and I hope you got organised to get yourself up to the Gold Coast for our very special tutorial next month. Howard's from New Zealand with us. He's coming to the tutorial. Justin in the Hunter Valley, and of course, good to hear from you, mate. Hope you're well. Dad's well. Hope you've had some good rain. I think you have. Yeah. So John's going to come to the Gold Coast. He says, don't miss it. And Keith, he's doing a tutorial. Got your email today, Keith. We'll do a session with you very shortly, early next week. Jen, great to have you with us. Mac sort of did a tutorial in a screaming hurry, and of course he's a very experienced trader. He knew all about most of it. I hope you're enjoying it. I'm going to bend your mind a little bit today, Mac. And the Murph, our wonderful long-term super trader. Big Mike O, Nathan, Neil up in the cotton growing country. Great to have you with us. Paramesh, Pat, oh gee, we've got everyone's here. Everyone's here today. Let's see who's not here. Peter's there. Oh, that's good. Peter from Warwick, the king of the day traders. I'm going to show you something to blow your mind as well today, mate. Philip, good to have you with us. And Lord, on we go, Stephen. You, Sue, up in Cairns. Sue, I hope your husband's feeling good, better anyway. You're not coming to the Gold Coast, but you've got to come down here for a medical appointment. You'll enjoy it. It's lovely. Good to have you all with us. Neil from Chinchilla was the word that I was looking for. Chinchilla. Neil's a cotton farmer in Chinchilla. Okay, folks. One of my students said to me last week, "Why do you do webinars?" And I told him that. I enjoy doing them. It's an opportunity to connect with all of you folks, a lot of you who are, old friends in many ways. I've spent many hours electronically with those of you who've done tutorials, and I get real pleasure out of it. The other thing, the reason I do webinars is occasionally, and this is one of them, I try to give you some ideas about the probabilities, which you don't hear. The reality of trading with the Daniel Code is almost the opposite of anything else you can think of. If you think about the masses of traders in the world, you've got all the hedge fund guys, you've got the quants. The quants are quantitative analysts, people who parse the market, PARSE, really minutely, and come up with different sectors of the market. And they tend to be long one sector that they think has growth and short one that they don't think has growth. Then you have the CTAs, and they're all driven by a mathematical model that there's a number at which they get partly long and another number at which they get fully long, and the same vice versa. In the middle of that, you've got the true speculators who are just filling in the liquidity by buying and selling in short-term charts. And then you've got us. What we do is almost entirely the opposite of everything you'll be taught. Now, I'm a bit of an expert on this because being an attorney, when I first came to futures trading, I assumed that you could learn it from books, from lectures, and from some practical experience. That's how you learn the law. But that's not how you can learn trading, funnily enough, because it seems that nobody has ever written or recorded a comprehensive analysis of trading. And I spent probably 6 or 7 years buying almost everything you could think of. I had 12 years wasting time and money in the search for the Gann, W.D. Gann, the great Chicago broker, who really is famous for all sorts of things which are not true. But what he really should be famous for is teaching brokers that there's a lot of money to be made by teaching your clients a bit about how to trade. I'm losing my track now. I'm back with you. So I spent years and years trying to learn all those sorts of ways, which I'm sure you've all done as well. And as well as that, I spent a not so small fortune going to seminars, webinars, tutorials, whatever you want to call them, of most of the big-time gurus. And there's not many of them that I missed. The large majority of those ones, the household names, have got my money. And I finished up at some stage. I got to a stage, I said, look, I'm spending an awful lot of time and money on this. And all of the examples, you'd come home from those sessions, you'd say, well, the examples were great. Never bet against the example. But they just didn't work well enough to give you that ongoing, eternal lift in your equity curve. So spare me, or forgive me rather, those who've already heard this story, but I spent a time, I had a locker. This was when we were living in Taupo, New Zealand. Had a storage locker about as big as your garage, and I took everything up there, all of the Gann charts and minor, and you name them. Most of them, like me, are partners at Trade Navigator, and I locked them all up. And I said to Mrs. Needham, look, spending a lot of time, a lot of money on this, I've either got to really understand what makes markets turn, or else I've got to stop wasting time and put in more effort into my law practice, which I still had then, in fairness to my partners. So I did, and eventually and I mean it's years and years and years, I started to find the first thread in the Daniel Code. And I did. I found the first thread. I was in the shower. These ideas and thoughts always seemed to come to me with water, either out sailing or out on Lake Taupo, catching the beautiful trout, or in the shower. So I had this idea, and I ran downstairs, said to Mrs. Needham, "Eureka! I have it. This is it. I have the key. I have the silver thread." But I didn't. All I had was the thread. And like all threads, you pull it, and eventually you'll see more threads. And the great search began. And all of that took me years and years and years. But in the process of eventually getting to some limited form of knowledge, It's occurred to me that markets are actually perfect. What's not perfect is our understanding. And for me in particular, because I have no technical skills and I don't use computers, if I can avoid them, I can do the maths faster with a pen and paper. I still have Parker pens. It's very hard to buy ink for your Parker pens these days. I have a black one, a red one, a blue one. I can do anything in the world with them. But what's inside markets actually is staggering. So I want to share with you today some of the things that I've learned, and I want to tease your minds to think about them, because they're not all simple solutions, but if I can expand your understanding of the possibilities of markets, that would be a terrifically good thing, and I'm going to try to do just that. So let's get started. So we know that markets are rational, orderly. Let me see if I missed someone here. Yeah, we've got a lot of people have come in a bit after I've started. So, folks, if I have missed saying greeting you, forgive me. But it's wonderful to have you. We've got a good turn up today. It's terrific. Oh, Matt from Melbourne, mate, I need to talk to you. If you've still got the same phone number, I'll give you a call next week. And tell you about the latest and greatest that's coming down the line. Okay, so move on. I'm talking too much, forgive me. Okay, so the first thing to remind you of is we've got a very small and very select tutorial. It's being held at the Gold Coast. The Gold Coast is in the state of Queensland. It's the northeastern state in Australia. It's the beautiful state. And the Gold Coast Surfers Paradise was the original suburb here, and that's exactly what it was. It's got miles and miles and miles of beautiful white sand beach, beautiful waves, beautiful Pacific Ocean, and the whales swim up and down, not too far offshore. That's on next month. We've got some people coming. We've got a couple of newbies, and we've got a few of our really serious traders who are going to become even better. Okay, so let's think about these ideas I have about time cycles. The Daniel Code is actually based on time. Those who've been with us a while will know that the Daniel Code comes out of chapter 12 of the book of Daniel in the Old Testament of the Bible. And that's about the stage everyone gets freaked out and says, I'm leaving, I'm gone. Well, it's a bit like that girl in that movie, Zero Dark 30. If you haven't seen it, get it on video or whatever you do. It's absolutely very, very good. And this was the early release of the hunt and the capture assassination of Osama bin Laden. And this came out very soon after they'd announced it, that they'd captured and killed him. And this was sort of a lady, her name was Bigelow, had some connection with Michelle Obama. Anyway, got the inside drift on it. But the movies are very, very good. It's large parts of it are factual. But I'm always reminded of the scene where the red-haired girl who's been running this program for the CIA is in the conference room with the boss of the CIA and probably the Secretary for Defense. I forget which one it would be, but anyway, all the big wigs. And he's going around the table. This is before they decide to try and go and kill him. And they haven't decided whether it's a probability that he's in this house that she and her assistant at the CIA and what have you have been able to identify. And he's going around the table saying to all of the people, give me your probability of this actually being bin Laden in this house. And all the professional guys go around and say 60%, 65%. And they get to this character, which is, she's actually fictitious, but she represents the group of agents who spent 12 years of their lives chasing this guy. And he said, well, what do you think the probability is? She said, 100%. And then she says, no. I know certainty freaks you out. I'll have to say 90%. Well, time, when I talk to people, it freaks them out as well when you say, this comes from the Bible. And I guess you'd say, well, Needham's a guy who spent 24, 25 years in search of this thing. And what he's come up with is something from the Bible. So the most common comment you get is, well, what the hell is he smoking? And Mark from Melbourne, good to have you with us, mate. That's good, Mark T. What I should say to you is that the Daniel Code, the construction of the Daniel Code ratios, which are ratios for time, essentially, are all a simple mathematical construct. If you've got a calculator, you can prove it. Some of you can do it in your head. But I can also give you a completely secular analysis. Once you know, or you've learned, as I have, where this stuff actually comes from, what the answer is, you can then take the secular version of it and work it back without a mention of anything anywhere close to the Bible. It's simply they're simply mathematical solutions, and they all start with the major cycle of time, which is actually the solar cycles. The Earth rotates around the sun at every 364 point something days. We have a new calendar year, and our calendar year is a solar year. And you can see here that sitting in the picture behind the Earth is the moon. And that's the next most important cycle. And these are natural cycles. They're not something I've invented. They come from the rational world of suns and planets and solar systems and rotational rates. So you're going to have to stretch your mind a bit and try and think this stuff through. And because within the solar cycle, there are 6 sub-cycles, and they're the Daniel Code ratios. And specifically, they are the ratios that divide cycles into time. And the hardest thing for people to understand is that time and price are the same thing on different axes. Let's have a look at this price-time argument. I often say to you, time is stronger than price. Time is also decried by everyone. The search for the Daniel Code put me back probably 5 or 6 years, because I went to a tutorial at Bull Run, which is down a bit from San Francisco, very, very lovely area. And I went to a tutorial there with a big name trading guy who told the anecdote. He said, time is just, don't waste your time thinking about trading. Time is a lot of rubbish. And the example he used, he said, if I say to my bank manager, I've made 2 hours trading time, he'll look at me and say, so what? But if I can go to my bank manager and say I've made 200 points or 2,000 points trading price, he'll be happy to lend me some money. And that put me off, because you always are a bit cowed by people who, particularly the big names, who've been at a long time, proven track record, everything else. But eventually I went back to that work. And if you think about it, here's a map of the world. If you think about movements in price, don't matter to anyone unless you're in a trading situation. They're the only people who are affected, but just a minuscule portion. A fraction of the world's ever heard of financial markets or trading them. So price is of no real importance to anyone except the guys who happen to be in a trade at that time. But time affects everyone. If you determine where you are, you want to know where you are anywhere in the world, you'll have a latitude and a longitude. And longitude is created by time. Pretty simply, 1 hour is 15 degrees of longitude. So as time changes, everybody in the world is affected. As the Earth rotates and time moves along, whether it's the gun trader in Chicago or it's the guy in the paddy fields of Sri Lanka, used to be called Ceylon, they're affected by time. They say, well, it's lunchtime, or it's time to start going home, time to go and get the buffaloes in, the water buffaloes, and put them away. So everyone's affected by time. You're affected by time. You had to come here to this webinar at a particular time. You've got other things to do in your lives at a particular time. When it gets dark, you're going to have to turn on the electricity, the light switches. Your wife, lady, friend, significant other, one never knows what they are these days, has got to go and buy some food and cook dinner at a specified time. So time affects everyone in every way, and it never stops affecting you. And that's why time is so powerful and price is such a minuscule idea. So after the solar system, the sun cycles, and the Daniel Code division of the solar cycles, they are the most important cycles of time. After that, the next most important cycles is the moon. And you can see here, this is the S&P since, pretty well for a year. And you can see all of the new moons and full moons on here. And I'm sorry if the coloured dots aren't bigger. That's actually as big as they go. But those little marks on the chart are new moons and full moons. And they're the most simple and observable ideas of moon cycles. In fact, within those cycles, there are many, many sub-cycles. And the new moon and the full moon are not by any means the best. They used to be very, very good many years ago, particularly on the S&P and gold. But as more people got to know about it, the way markets work is that they have to get the majority of people wrong before they will move. That's how the dynamic of markets always is. So what stopped being so important was the new moon and the full moon, and the quarter moons became much, much more important. I'm going to show you some of this stuff now. That the next cycle that we can look at, a very dominant cycle in the moon, is what's called apogees and perigees. And as the moon spins around the Earth, apogees occur at the time. That's an elliptical cycle that sometimes it's closer to the Earth and sometimes it's further away. Apogees occur at that point where the moon is as far away from the Earth as it can get in its cycle. And perigees is the opposite. That's the point at which the moon is as close to the Earth as it's ever going to get on its elliptical cycle. And you can see that the size of the moon, it appears much bigger at perigees than apogees. But these are very, very important turning points. You think about it, in one case you look at the conversion from apogee to perigee. The moon is rushing towards the Earth on its elliptical orbit, and once it hits the perigee, it's actually reversed itself. It's now going away, and that has all sorts of effects, the main one of which is the expression lunatic. It actually comes from the word lunar, and with the old-fashioned idea that full moons send people mad. Well, there must be a lot of full moons around, because it seems to me the vast majority of the world is mad at the moment. We'll leave that to another day. So you can actually very simply go and pick up all of the dates of apogees and perigees, and you can put them on your chart. This is the same chart. This is about last year of the S&P. Now, these are not as accurate as you'd like, because we have weekends, and we don't know quite how to account for weekends. So apogees and perigees can fall on trading days, or they could fall on weekends. And because of that discrepancy, that's one of the reasons why we say that these time cycles are valid for plus or minus one period. That's one of the reasons why we have to allow that latitude, but it's not much in the scheme of things. So once you've worked out apogees and perigees, you can see really simple things. So what I've done is I've used the Daniel Code Time tool here. Those of you who have got the Pro Daniel Code Pro package have got this on your Trade Navigator. You just click on it and stick it anywhere you like. But look what happens if we start sticking this thing on apogees. Here's the March low and the high, and the low has come 1 day before its date. That's your plus or minus 1 day, but that's actually the 59, the day that the 59 cycle's on. That's actually the closing low of that move. You can have we have different highs and lows. We have chart highs, chart lows, true highs, true lows, and closing highs and closing lows. And closing highs and closing lows are very persuasive. So that gave us, the 59 gave us a low. Move out to the 70, that's given you the chart high. Just by running the standard Daniel Code time cycles, which most of you know, 44, 59, 62, and what we call the heathen cycle, 70, which is not heathen, it just comes from a different chapter of the book of Daniel. That's the one that Sir Isaac Newton liked so much and wrote about it very extensively. And you can get his time analysis, if you like, by the master himself, Isaac Newton, father of modern science. No one's going to argue with him. They don't call him nuts when he talks about time cycles, but they do think I'm nuts. And it's called Observations on the Prophecies of St. John. It's on the internet. It's free if you're interested in this stuff. You can read mine. There are 2 articles on the Daniel Code website. One's called, they're both called Masterclass, Masterclass 1 and Masterclass 2, which give you an understanding of time. And Sir Isaac Newton wrote his observations on the prophecies of St. John. He uses the 70, and he says the book of Daniel is the most important book in the Bible because it foretells the coming of the Messiah. That was his take on it. Let's move on. You're going to get buried with charts today because I've got to indicate to you or try to show you what happens if you start using the apogees and perigees with the normal Daniel Code time cycles. So here we are. Here's the July high. Bang, right there. 1 bar from it. And the previous high as well. The 62's nailed a high. And the 70 has nailed the 1 bar earlier than the July high. Here's the next chart. This is all S&P. Again, I've just I've started the time count from an apogee, and look what you get. Here's your May high. Runs to it starts at the May high. 2019. We start the count at the May high, and the 70 hits the July low to the day. And the day before that, of course, was the impulse low or the closing low. It also now at 62 is 1 day before the previous high. So we had that high before on 70, you recall. Now we've got on 62. These are fixed ratios. So if you can get, as you can see all the time, that as you move along your time cycles with this Daniel Code time tool, which is very, very basic, you'll find you'll identify important highs and important lows, first with a 70, then with a 62, then with a 59, then so on. Not every one of them, but one of them will show that pattern, which means that the market must know the timing differences between, in this case, we had exactly the same bar at 70 on the previous chart. We've now got to 62. So the market must understand that 8-day gap. And it's built in. It happens all the time. And I've done this stuff back years and years and years and years. Have a look at this. This is the S&P again still. And now we've just started from the July, late June rather, I should say, perigee. and just whack the standard Daniel code time channel straight on it. At 44, you get the August high, and then at 59, you get the 1 bar before the next little high, actually the impulse high. And at 70, there you go, you get the September high, perfectly to the day. Let's move on. Here's still analysing the same thing. This is how you get the low. I've run this off a perigee, and you can see that the 44 nails the October low to the day. So I hope that gives you something to think about. Yes. So that was the little view that gets you thinking about how important apogees and perigees are. They're minor cycles of moon cycles. So you've seen the fourth seal before. The fourth seal, the great W.D. Gann said that a line drawn from a high before the high or a low before the low that goes through the first reaction will forecast the next high or will forecast the next low. And of course, that's actually not true. In the same way, Gann would say, if you are worthy, I will tell you the secret. And the secret was the number, the vibration of life and of markets. Back in those days, this is back in the 40s, 50s, Gann was selling his packages, the eggs and the other commodities. He had these great big books of really nothing. If anyone here has been as silly as me and read Tunnel Through the Air, you can get some idea what. And I've actually known people who say they've read it twice, enjoyed it, found a lot in it. I found nothing. A 4-year-old could write a better book, in my view, but nonetheless, Gann was selling these courses then for about the price of a new Buick. General Motors car, very fashionable in the day, was Buicks. And the basic rule was if you gave him 2 Buicks or gave him the equivalent of buying 2 new Buicks, then you would become worthy. And he'd say, if you are worthy, I will tell you the number. And the number he'd tell you was 7, and of course it's not. But leave that aside. That general idea we're looking at, highs before the high and lows before the low. Well, the markets are filled with those. There's not one high before the high. There are many highs before the high. And there are many lows before the low. But if we slim that down a bit, if we get rid of the multitude of choices and we say we're going to just be concerned with highs before the high or lows before the low that come somewhere near a basic lunar cycle. Now, remember, I haven't shown you what the really important ones are, which are the quarter turns. But just have a look at this. If we simply take the swing highs, swing lows, and we define those in the most liberal way we can. So you can see this first one right back here. I'll put my cursor on it. This is back in late June, early July this year. We say that any bar that has a higher high or a higher low or a close greater than the open, we define that as an up bar. And we define any low as a bar that has a lower low or a lower high or a close less than the open as a down bar. So that way we can define the bar where this count starting from is actually a swing low one day after the full moon, because you can see it's got a higher high or a higher low, I should say, on both sides of it. And from there, if we simply follow the normal Daniel code, the fourth seal, those of you who've done tutorials that were interested in the fourth seal, I've shown you how to do these. And you can see that first red line there, it hits the next high in September perfectly, almost to the tick. Might be 2 ticks out, that'll be all. And that happened right on a full moon. Very nice. You can see the previous full moon also gave you a high. So I'm fortunate enough that where I live, you can see the moon pretty beautifully every night. And whenever whenever I see the full moon, I say, aha, turn in the S&P, because I used to trade nothing but moon cycles, and so often that's the case. You can see the next red line there, that's a high before the high, and that gets you the low in October that's just gone. Not quite, but close enough, closer than anything else. Certainly, if it lined up with other things, gave you a reason to think about it. So let's move on. This is the same thing, the same charts, all of them. And what we're doing here, we're taking lows before the low. Okay, bear with me. This is the low here. This is a low before the low. This is also a low before the low. And we're extending them the same way we always draw the four seals. And it's actually going through, it's connecting with the open or high or low or close of a consolidation. And it forecast the next high up here in early August. And next one further down, it forecast the next high, which came, as I said, on a full moon. And from the mid-August counter trend high there, we get two different lines from the same swing point, one of which gives you the October low, and the other one gives you the momentum low, which is the bar immediately before. And you should be able to see here, I'll get a tool that you can actually see what I'm doing here. Spotlight, that's what I wanted. You can see here from this same high, there are two different four seal lines. This first one gives you the momentum low. That bar will have the closing low on it exactly, and this is the swing low exactly. I mean, it is not accidental that these turns and the fourth seal is so precise, because the fourth seal is a combination of time and price. Every angle is a fourth seal. It has a combination of time and price. Okay, let me go back to my cursor and we'll move on. Okay. So, where have we got in here? Here we are. All right. So, it's just an earlier piece of the chart. And it's all the same thing. I'm taking the highs and lows, only the ones that are closest to the major, very non-secret cycles in moon. I'm only taking the high before the high and low before the low that's closest to the new moons and the full moons. Now, once you get serious about this stuff, we can limit that down and put the quarter moons on, the quarter turns, and you literally get every single turn in the market. Not some of them, not a percentage of them, all of them, every single one. And here's more of the fourth seal. It's all telling you the same thing, that the vibration around the new moon and the full moon, if we use that as a filter to start our fourth seal quest, it gives us every high and every low on any chart. So this is just more of the same. It's a slightly different view of the chart, but I guess you've got the idea that basically every single turn comes at a combination of time and price. That's what the fourth seal is. Okay, let me stretch your mind a bit further, because we have with us today a very, very good day trader who lives up at Warwick, and I haven't met him yet, but we've had some conversations. Warwick is on the Darling Downs in Queensland. Excuse me, and I'll just find you where you are, because the Alan, I think it's Alan, is Juan's with us. Good to have you with us, Juan. I hope you haven't missed too much. This is will be posted on the website for those of you who've missed anything a bit earlier, but Mr. King, I think his name is, from memory. Anyway, let's have a look. He's a short-term trader, and this is a 60-minute chart of gold. I know you all like gold. I don't encourage people to trade short term for the simple reason I've done that. I've traded everything from 3 ticks to a bar to long-term swing charts, you name it. And the reality is, on my observation, that the vast profitability comes from trading daily bars. However, a knowledge of shorter-term trading is very helpful for timing, for finessing, if I can use that word, your entries and your exits. Now, tidal flows, tides are caused by the gravity of the moon. The tides follow the moon as it goes around the Earth, and the gravitational pull of the tide of the moon is what creates tides. So, before you poo-poo all of that idea, I want you to go and get a couple of buckets of water, fill them up with water, hold one in each hand, and hold your arms out by your side, straight out, parallel to the Earth, perpendicular to you, and see how long you can hold 2 buckets of water. And I'll tell you what, the answer is not very long, but that will give you, focus your mind on the tremendous weight of gravity and the power that it generates. Then start thinking about what this gravitational pull is actually doing to the oceans. Think of just far north of Queensland, up about Mackay, those sorts of areas, and certainly many of the west coast of the US. The tides are rising 24 to 30 feet, and this goes on twice a day. And just imagine, if you can, you couldn't hold 2 buckets of water in your hands up for very long. This gravitational pull is absolutely immense, and it's pulling up the whole ocean, or that sector of the ocean, and it's extraordinary. And people never stop to think about tides, never stop to think, why is it so? But you see the tides in the ocean, that's very simple to observe. But what actually happens is we also have what I call earth tides or air tides. And what this is the same tidal flow. It moves over the ocean. When it hits land, the water stops, but the gravitational pull doesn't. It moves across the face of the earth in the same way as it moved across the face of the waters. And it has this amazing effect. And many years ago, when I was a short-term trader and nothing else, I actually sent a team of surveyors, and I wanted them to get me the exact coordinates in minutes and seconds. I'm not talking degrees, we're down to minutes and seconds, of the center of the trading floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Because when we trade at the S&P futures, that's actually what we're trading, what's happening, the combined prices of the stocks that are in the S&P 500 list of stocks. So I knew that there was a tidal station near the end of Wall Street that's called the New York Battery, BATTERY, if you're interested in this stuff. And they wouldn't let my surveyors in on the trading floor. They shooed them off. But I did get, they took a reading for me just outside on the steps of the New York Stock Exchange, and I converted that time from the New York Battery, the tidal post of the New York Battery that gives you absolutely precise tidal numbers, to the very slight difference it would be looking at an earth tide or an air tide as that tide moved onto the center of the New York Stock Exchange. And the results were extraordinary. And what you're looking at is also extraordinary. This is very simply a 60-minute chart of the recent trading in gold. And you can see there's some red diamonds and some blue diamonds. And what they are is they're the quarter tides. They're not the full tides or the high tides or the low tides. They're the quarter tides. And you can see that the 4 significant points with those either a red or a blue triangle or a diamond on them, they're quarter tide turns at the New York Battery. Extraordinary, isn't it? The Two of them are absolutely spot on. The hour chart. This is just an hourly chart. You can bring this down to a 3-minute chart if you want to, whatever you like. It all works exactly the same. And the blues that have signified the lows on this chart are both, excuse me, 1 bar. Again, we've got the allow plus or minus 1 period. So the first ones come 1 period after the low, and the second blue icons come 1 period before. And if we simply just go and put our start our time count in there from the midpoint between the high tide and the low tide, what do you get? The 44 gives you the next high. The 62 gives you 1 bar before the low. Then there's a counter trend. The 70 gives you 1 bar after the low, but it's actually given you the chart high of the rally up. And this is the last couple of days in gold. So if you're interested in short-term trading, this is how good you can get it. And it's extraordinary. You would, of course, use something more sophisticated than the hourly chart. But the hourly chart is the basis of it, because these are changes in time that you're measuring. And that's what the tides are measuring, is the changes in time. Okay, so there you are. That's gold for the last. Time. That's a 60-minute chart of gold. You can take that down to any time cycles you like. Once you know how to work, it all works the same. Right, where am I here? Here we are. And Forex. I mean, we don't talk enough about Forex. I used to talk about it a lot many years ago, 10, 12 years ago. I don't know why I don't talk about it, because we should. Have a look at this. This is the rally of the British pound, as they've all come to think that there's going to be a Brexit deal now. I reckon this is going to be one of those buy the rumour, sell the news. So if you're involved in any GBP trades, watch it. But this is straight TO3 buy, straight from the Daniel code TO3 signals. Have a look at it. $7,200 straight up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. Over $1,000 a day, one contract, straight in your pocket. Here's another one. We've got different colours at the top. GBP's gold. CHF is not gold. That's because I was doing this at about some of this very, very early this morning. Obviously didn't tidy that up. But anyway, it's a nice colour change. This is a plus buy from our TO3 plus suite of signals. There it is. What could be simpler? 12087 was the retracement number. The low was about 3 ticks away from that. Up it goes, $5,000. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days straight up. So that's really something you should pay attention to. This is palladium, which we cover on our 6S. I'm going to show you the 6S signals in a moment, so bear with me. We've still got a few minutes left. We cover palladium on 6S. Prince Daniel is a very, very big palladium trader, so he'll be sound asleep because he's in Dubai, and he'll look at this when we get it posted, which may not be until tomorrow, folks, because Terry's up, but he's not where he lives. He's up at Toronto doing another job, so he said he wouldn't get this done till probably midday tomorrow. But this is a straight 6S buy. Have a look at it. $8,000 straight up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 bars. 8 bars straight up. Wonderful. Money in your pocket. And there's a whole lot more of that. So don't go away, because I've got to go to the 6S when we finish running through this webinar. We've got another few minutes to go. You'll want to see this. If you want to be a super trader and learn this stuff that I've shown you, or any part of it, you're most welcome to do a Daniel Code tutorial. We've done, over the last 2.5 years, we've been doing them by video, which seems to work very well. We record each of the sessions, so just put them on one of us, a private service for you, you alone, and you can go through each of the lessons as often as you like. And I must say that's worked very, very well. I got a email from Sue up in Cairns today, saying some years since she did the Shora course, but I had a lovely conversation with Sue when I first she made contact with me, and basically, excuse me if I'm wrong, this is a couple of years ago, she said she'd been trading for a number of years, she'd done an awful lot of courses, and she never made money trading, never made money consistently. She made a bit of money and lost money. In other words, that's what happens to everyone. That's the standard part. That's about as good as it gets for most people. And then she did the Daniel Code, and she was fairly skeptical. She'd spent a lot of money on other courses, and she's just so thrilled that for the first time in her life, she's actually making money. And got an email from her today. She's with us today here on this webinar, Sue, saying yes, she's still making money, and that's marvellous. But send me an email if you're interested in learning this stuff, and let me have your phone number and a good time to call you, and I'll give you a call. We can talk about your trading and what you're interested in, what you hope to achieve. Different people want different parts out of this. There'll be some short-term traders who only want to talk short-term trading. And then there are people who are fascinated with the fourth seal. But I teach it all, teach you everything. If you haven't already had a free trial, folks, you're most welcome. Go to the Daniel Code website, click the free trial banner. Terry will get you signed up and working. That should happen automatically. If not, contact Terry at support@thedanielcode.com. I use Trade Navigator charts and software. I find them very good. I've used them for many, many years. And if you haven't already had a free trial of Trade Navigator, we can arrange a 31-day free trial for you as well. Excuse me. So let's draw your attention to the compliance section, which I think is actually terribly important. It is very, very easy to lose a whole lot of money trading futures, in fact, trading anything. And I do beg and implore you. Janet, making money is good. Great, great. Oh, Mac is excited. God, Mac, I'm not sure anything would have excited you, but I'm glad you found something. John, as you know, I spent many years studying these natural cycles. I'm so excited to hear you talking about this stuff. We've got a lot more of that stuff, Mac. It's fascinating. I spend a considerable part of my life doing time cycles. In fact, you know, if we ever have a holiday, I don't have a holiday. I find holidays boring. But if I'm ever forced on a holiday by Mrs. Needham or the children, what I do when I'm on a holiday is I do time cycles on charts. I'm fascinated with it. And the more you do, the more you'll learn. But I do implore you that it is very, very easy to lose money trading. I ask you seriously, do not risk real money trading until you know how to trade. If you don't know how to trade, send me an email and I will teach you and make you one of the best traders in the world. No kidding. Okay, let's get out of this because I want to show you something else. Have a look at this. Here we are, and let's go to the Daniel Code. And here we are, folks. I want you to have a look at the success signals. Juan Vera's with us today. He's into this. Now have a look at this. These are the markets we cover. Some of them are corresponding. They're very, that's not the word I'm looking for. They're essentially the same market. NASDAQ, S&P, Dow, Russell, and the DAX. They're very highly correlated. Andrew, what is the cutoff date for registering for the Surface Paradise tutorial? I'd like to have it all booked up by the 20th of this month, but you can sign up anytime you like. Just shoot me an email if you'd like to come. We'd love to organise it for you. Mark, I'm going to come back to you. Don't go away. I can see what you've written me. For a beginner to DC compared to video tutorial, the live tutorial offers significantly more information. Yes, and you've got me, and you've got 3 days of talk about markets. I mean, after we've done, those of you who've done a live tutorial, I haven't done one since 2016, but I have fond memories, so do some of you who've done a live tutorial. All I'm really capable of talking about is trading, horse racing, which I was huge in a previous life, and rugby. As most of my American friends don't speak about rugby, Chip does, and his mate. We had a couple of guys in Los Angeles. The last live tutorial I did, he was I'm trying to remember his name, Hobie. God, he was a giant of a man. He was a really, really good front row forward, huge guy, rugby player, and we had a wonderful time. Yes, I guess the thing about the live trading is, or the live tutorials, I should say, is you're dealing with me. You can ask me any question you like when the session's finished, and we teach from 10:30 till 5. Then we sit at the veranda and have drinks and talk about trading for another 2, 3, or 4 hours. So either way, it doesn't matter. What I do for all my tutorial folks, whether it's a live tutorial or video, my commitment is not that I will give you the tutorial. My commitment is that I will keep teaching you as long as you are interested. And I have people who did tutorials, some of them, Janet's with us, she's probably done 4 of them. Sage was, and Daryl were the champions. They did 6 or 7 each. Years afterwards, they'll email me about something, ask a question. We can always have a hook-up on GoToMeeting. So you'll get whatever you want. You'll get it either way. Janet says more. She's done more than that. Good idea. Okay, have a look at this, folks. This is success. We ran it for 7 months as a free trial, and then we asked people to pay. I don't know how many of you are in it, but a lot of you are. Just have a quick browse through this. The comments, this paragraph on the right, seems to get people confused. I don't know why. That's what we think our position is now. And then these are the orders to place today. Just add this up. This is just the last week or so. This is US dollar index 700, NASDAQ 4400, then that takes you to 3200. Palladium 8800, there's about 14,000 in total. 2600 in the S&P, say 16,500. Another 3,000 in, that was the previous one, was the Russell, another 3,000 in the S&P. You're talking about 18 to 20,000 in the last 6 or 7 days. I mean, the money is just, honestly, it's been immense. I don't know what it is that motivates the world out there. Love and food and money, but boy, money's a very important thing. If you've got enough of it, you don't have to worry too much. Honestly, I mean, this is a big statement. You can make more money trading futures than anything else in the world that I'm aware of. That is a legal occupation. So, boy, you should all be mad over it. Okay, so let me see what's happening here. So, Andrew, yes, would love to have you. Let us know when you can. This is Mark T. Question A. Yes, question and answer of the tutorial. Mate, it's just me. I will you just talk to me non-stop if you like. It's very informal, very casual. That's, I mean, I'm an attorney. I spent probably 30 years of my life in a 3-piece suit and tie, so you bet I don't try putting them on these days. It's got to be a pretty important occasion. It's casual. It's just talk anything you like. Will I teach you to create the DC numbers? Absolutely. For T3 and 6S? Absolutely. And time signals? Absolutely. After the tutorial, what kind of follow-up is there? As much as you like. As I say, you can contact me. I mean, I have clients who did tutorials 5, 6, 7. I got one of them, I forget who his name is. He's probably with it 8, 9 years ago. And, talking to him the other day, I'm just here for you. As long as the good Lord wills me to be on this earth, I'm here, and I'm always able to respond to any of my tutorial clients. It might take a day or two to set up a time, but we can set up a go-to meeting to talk to tutorial people about anything, anytime. So that sounds to me like, and let me tell you something really quickly, Mark, because we're just a minute over time. The very best traders we have, one of them is Frank DB, who does most of the work on the fourth seal for me. This is, if you haven't seen it, it's quite extraordinary. And excuse me, where's this all over here? So here's the fourth seal. This would be gold. Everyone's always interested in gold. This is what it looks like. This is Frank DB in Belgium does this stuff for me, and you can see that this gold just turned so beautifully at the 59 and the 44. If you want to know why gold turns at 44, go to the Daniel Code articles. They're all up in here. There's about 90 of them. And have a look at It's About Time. It's called Masterclass 2 Trading Gold. It'll show you exactly why 44 is the number for gold. And then Frank will give you a comment last week and this week. And it's been it's sensational. I'll teach you to do all of that. So the point is that when Frank came to me, this was in Taupo, New Zealand, a few years ago, he brought his fiancée, Anne, with him, A-N, Belgian, lovely, lovely girl. They were engaged and now married. They've got 2 children. Frank had never seen a financial chart, never seen a chart in his life. He's a farmer in Belgium, very good at it. And the other one, of course, was Sister Sage, who Glennis, who unfortunately and very sadly is no longer with us. She was a lovely woman, she was totally not interested in anything financial. Her husband, Darryl, a very successful businessman, and she was interested in trading, and I taught her. And she never looked at a financial page, never looked at a website, never read a newspaper. She said, pretty simple, she said, I only do what John Needham taught me, nothing else, I'm not interested. Never saw a chart until she came to me and finished up being one of the very best traders we've ever seen. So if you're a beginner, you come to me, it's the best place. I will teach you all of this. In fact, if you are new to trading, I'll teach you how, all of it. And if you're already a good trader, I'll make you better. Okay, so I guess that's us for right now, folks. Let me just make sure I've dealt with all the comments here. Mac, much to think about, mate. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Think about finding the quarter cycles and the quarter tide. You'll find it pretty fascinating. The other thing you can do, Mac, I know you're big on this, take the apogee and the perigee and divide that time by the Daniel Code ratios. It's quite startling, particularly the 50 and the 59. Terrific. Okay, folks, well, thank you all for being with me. Mark, glad to have you. Mick, Mike, Murph, thank you, mate. Always good to hear from you. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks, John. I hope it's a nice day down in Coffs. Beautiful up here. Matty, I'll give you a call next week, mate. I've got some things to talk to you about. So, folks, thank you for being with us today. I'm sorry we're 5 minutes over time, but I hope you've, really given you something to think about. It's really worth the time, I promise you, to think about Daniel Code trading. So that's it, folks. Thanks for being with us, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Any questions, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to deal with them at the next webinar. Thanks for being with us today. Enjoy your weekend. It's 20 to 12 midday here at the beautiful Gold Coast. As I said, the sun's out, sky's blue, the ocean's beautiful, the Pacific, and it's warm enough now. It's time to head for the Bloody Marys in the swimming pool. And I wish you were as happy as I am. All the best. Thank you for being with us. Bye-bye.